So my name is Nick Slay. I'm really happy to have partnered with Sloppy Vinyl and the Soundshop to bring you making money in music, really learning actionable items and the truth about the music industry is super hard, if we're just gonna call it for what it is. And it's an industry that the moment that you get in, you're supposed to be responsible for many different disciplines and understanding laws. And so what I kind of wanted to put together, spoke to Akpanalua about joining with the Sound Shop. So how can we put together a bunch of music panels, like, once every couple of months, so we can really have this kind of learning, networking environment, have all these great people that have given up a piece of their time to come check us out. So I want to just kind of introduce everybody that's on our panel today. So first we have Noel Glish Rodriguez, if you can wave to everybody, from 300 Entertainment. He works as a promotions coordinator at the radio department. He's worked at Interscope, he's worked at Music Choice. He's someone who's started from the intern level all the way up. And I think that's something that is really, we should applaud, because it's like to get from point A to point B is hard, and he's made that climb. We have Shannon Millen. So right now she works for Pernod Ricard. All right. So she's kind of like, she creates the online branding vision for Martell Cognac, Avion Tequila, Chivas Regal. She's worked for Blue Flame Group. She's worked for Aman Cosmetics, and she is, if you want your brand to pop online, she's the doctor that you go see. We have my boy Hannibal Jack Dans, 5 times in the building. What can I say about Jack? He's kind of like, I was gonna go for the obvious pun of being a jack of all trades, dope hook writer, publicist, manager. He's worked with a little bit of everyone. He's done hooks for Mano, for Scram Jones. Right now he's doing management and PR for King Michael Coy, who just did the new Her record, 21. He does real estate. I mean, he's the embodiment. If there's $1 there, he's gonna be there. We have Justin Jacobson of the Jacobson firm. I actually, his father was my law professor in school. Super hard, but super fair guy. Got a chance to meet him during Fashion Week. He's an amazing entertainment lawyer, really knowledgeable, goes back to school all the time. I think, what's the last thing he went back for, trademarking and stuff like that? Just to make sure that he knows what he's doing for his client. Really fair, really honest. So if you got contracts you need looked at, you need someone that you could trust in the industry, this is the person that you go to. The Jacobson firm has a legacy. They've worked with everyone. When he gets a chance to speak, he'll list, but it's like legacy people. And what I like, though, is that as high tier as their roster is, they still work with the little people. They still work with people on the way up. They realize that everyone really needs good representation. And it's a really big deal. So we have Mike, is the owner of Water Music Publishing. So he's kind of quietly, sometimes the most important person in the room. He's kind of built everything from the ground up, and I think that especially as a black man in the music industry, to kind of have that kind of status of building everything up from the ground up, brick by brick, is a big deal. The catalog at Water Music Publishing is amazing, and despite that success, he has his hands in the youth. He has his hands in educating the youth of New Jersey and bringing up the next wave of talent. We have Cedric Guy. He's kind of done everything. He's a Billboard charting producer. He's been an A&R, mentor, manager. His songs are still getting crazy hits on YouTube from artists that dropped in the 80s and 90s. So that's a legacy there. I think that's, for a lot of us producers, we want to get to that point where you can just randomly turn on Light FM and one of your joints is still going 20 years later. So when we discuss about making money in the music industry, that's the longevity that we want to get to. Not that we had a hot joint one day that you can be like, whose song's on the radio? And he can tell his kids, no, that's your dad. That's still paying bills right now. We have Indo. He's I want to say the head of Sloppy Vinyl. Is that DJ? Kind of a kindred spirit. And doing panels and performances and events and stuff like that. And it's kind of like this is the ground level hustle. And I think that he can agree. Networking and bringing people together and building your way up is hard. And as kindred spirits of that, of what it takes to actually build a brand and getting money makers and labels to talk to you and deal with you and bring the artists through, it's a real, it's a hard road, it's a lonely road. So to be able to do that at that level, I definitely compliment him because that's a big deal. So to get this started, I know Kadeem had a really great question. So I think we'll start off with that. So can you come ask your question real quick, and then we'll let the panelists go through. Yeah, if it was wireless, I would have walked over to you. But
all right. Good evening, everybody. So let's take this way. All right. So my question is, in the music business, how important is it to put your all into your career? Meaning, should you have a side hustle, something to fall back on, funneling your career, or should you go all in and treat it as do or die?
For me, it was do or die. I quit everything and decided to solely do music. You know, it was a little ridiculous considering I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't play any instruments. So I had to have a work ethic beyond most talented people, all right? For my own kid, I'll tell them to have a fallback, you know what I'm saying? But for me, I didn't want to have a fallback. For me, it was this or nothing else.
My path was a little bit different because I went to school for music and then was doing music, you know, songwriting, and then I dropped out for a little bit and started focusing on real estate. But now, some of the things that I learned in real estate, I'm applying it back to music. So it just really depends on, you know, where you at with your life and what else you got going on. And as long as your passion is there, I always find a way back home to music, no matter what I'm doing, so.
My path is a little niche, but hey, I guess I can say I got my first job out of college at Blue Flame, which is Diddy's company. So my career is the result of the success and the sacrifice of an artist. So, I mean, I think everybody's situation is different, and like you said, I mean, I would definitely say to have a fallback plan because it's a hard road and it's hard to really get up there and get up in the ranks, but I feel like you're gonna have to make some sacrifices no matter what your dream is, so.
Me, myself, I can say that I'm a product of the internship process. I'll be lying if I didn't tell you that I went an entire year without getting paid as an intern. So I do believe in having a side hustle in that aspect because you do need money to continue going. But I kind of agree with Mike because you got to be all in. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of people who are, you know, chasing the same path that you're chasing. And the music industry is small. There's only so many seats at the table. So, you know, you got to go all in. But yeah, that's just my take on it.
Well, my path was quite different. I started out as a musician, playing, you know, since I was 14 years old, and then learning songwriting, producing, and so on and so on. But my thing was I never had a regular job. I always did music, whether I was playing in a club or writing music or whatever. So I think that if you're going to do music, yeah, you can have a side hustle, but if you got something to fall back on, then it's like, you know, like, why should I do it? I'm making money doing my side hustle instead of doing music. Because if you choose music, it's going to be a while before you make some money.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Seth was saying, especially when you're trying to build a brand and kind of establish an identity. Like, nobody's going to pay you for something that they never heard of or pay you for something that, you know, they don't know if it's a good experience or not. So I think, like, having something to provide some kind of income and sustenance for when you're hungry and you need a couple dollars is important, but you definitely got to be super focused on your dream and trying to basically attach everything that you can to that dream so that it makes you the money and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, building a little off what they've been saying, I think trying to get, an internship or some kind of angle that's within the industry, whether you're working at a label or a publishing company or an agency, so you're getting some money, but you're also kind of building your network and your connections and learning how to actually function in the music business while, working on your music on the side.
So the next thing that I want to discuss is publishing. I think that should be a really big focal point if you're talking about you're going to make money in this art space, you're going to do music, and part of that has to deal with also like being in control of your copyrights and stuff like that. So if Mike and also Justin, I guess, could have I'll talk about copyrights. I think in publishing, I think that's a big piece of, just owning what you're making in this world.
Owning what you're making in this world. That's actually a really good question, because in some of the situations, I don't own what I've created in this world. You know what I'm saying? If I did a deal with Atlantic, I was speaking to Cedric about this earlier, they would have a clause in the deal, work for hire, which literally said that they paid me to do my music, hence they have it. You know what I'm saying? Years later, when I want my music, it's not available to me because of that one little line, work for hire. When it comes to publishing, I think that's what it's all about now. I don't think that there's anything else that's as profitable as publishing. I have to speak on this more from a creative end, because me and Drea, which has been on my mind from last week, it becomes a choice sometimes between doing it for the money or doing it for the art and the love and the creative flow that it gives you. I was telling Drea basically to make her hook a little bit more commercial, and Drea basically said, which was a great answer. I know your questions, but this has been on my mind all week or all weekend. And she basically said that it's a process, and through this process, I want to do what my heart is telling me to do, what my heart is telling me to write. And through different ordeals that she's been through, she doesn't want anyone to tell her to change, and I respect that, although our business deal is for me to get her records placed, all right? So with that being said, anytime anybody goes in my studio, I prefer for them to do a split sheet, all right? The split sheet, it's going to let everybody know from the door what it is that we're agreeing upon. Because a lot of times when you have 5, 10 people in a room, when a record is a hit, all of a sudden, everybody got amnesia, and the was the entire hook. The was the entire verse. You see what I'm saying? So I believe that the best way of keeping great relationships is to always make sure that you handle the business first. You know what I'm saying? Split sheets, copyrights, registering your records with BMI, ASCAP. A lot of people don't do that, and for a lot of my writers, I tend not to let them register with BMI or ASCAP in the beginning, because I usually work to get them in advance. But the business right now, dot your I's, cross your T's, and be friends forever. I hope I answered it in some sense.
I just wanted to add something to that, because I just had like a real life example with this. So the producer I work with, King, he's a niche producer. Like, he doesn't do trap and all that type of shit. Like, he plays 10 instruments. So a struggle that we have a lot is like, he wants to be on all of the top artist projects, but it's like his sound is his sound. So and I tell him, like, listen, you have to just stay true to what you want to do, because at the end of the day, you can't change what you love or what you like to do. Like, this is you. Like, some artists, sometimes as they mature in their careers, they want to change their sound of music. So let them come to what you do. Like, do what you do best. And we can get other producers and sign them and have you throw a bass line and add stuff to it and do things, you know, that are current as far as that's concerned. So I definitely believe in staying true to, you know, what you do. And the other thing I have to add is that you have to make sure that your business team is on point. And that's another reason why I came into the fold with who I'm working with, because he had someone that was handling his business that wasn't handling his business. So, you know, giving up publishing when you don't have to give up publishing, not getting paid, not getting paid when you're supposed to get paid, waiting months to get a fucking check, things like that. You know, going through those things. So you have to have someone that is knowledgeable of the business and that's aggressive and that can say, like, no, we're not standing for this. Like, you know, we did this. We want to get paid. We want to get paid on time, and making sure that your lawyers and everyone else is on point with your business.
But at all times, you have to be flexible, because as a publisher, I've given away publishing to major artists that did nothing on the records. You understand? They literally just showed up and said, if you want your record, if you want your song to be on me, you're gonna have to piece off. You understand? That's happened with me several times with major artists, A-list artists, all right, that you think write records that don't, all right, as well as A-list producers, where they sat back and said, hey, we're getting 50% because we did the track, but your writer is brand new, and all the melodies are in the track, so we want some of that too. So, you know, I always keep it flexible based on the business, and it's always my writer's decisions if they want to give that up or not. I usually advise that in the case of getting started, it's the best bet to do it. So regardless of how tight the business is, I'm always very flexible when it comes to the business.
I want to ask a question. How many of you guys in here have had a publishing deal? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you guys know what publishing is? Okay. All right. I've had 3 publishing deals with major publishing companies. One with BMG, one with Island Music, that was sold to Polygram, and another one with Warner Chappell. Okay. Publishing is not, it evolves. And you could do a publishing deal and be flowing and so on, but if you don't write the songs that they need you to write, your publishing deal is done. Okay? Now, going back to something that Mike said about writers, you know, like for instance, how many of you guys watch this show called Songland? Okay. If you go on Spotify, and when those people come out, they present their songs. If you go on Spotify and you look at the song credits, there's like 20 people on that one song that person wrote. Okay? Why is that? Because it's like everybody wants to get their piece. Like for instance, I'm gonna give you a good example. Y'all remember a song called that Jamie Foxx did, Alcohol? Blame It on Alcohol? Okay. Those people, that song got held up in litigation because somebody walked in the studio and said, like Mike said, I did the. And somebody else said, well, I did Blame. Right? So now, that song was held up. Nobody got paid for like 3 or 4 years off that record because they had 14 writers on that record. And nobody did a split sheet, like Mike said. So know that when you are in a creative environment, do your split sheets. Make sure your business is covered. Because if your business is covered, now it's a he said, she said, oh, I did this. Oh, no, you didn't. Get that done the minute you finish the session so that everybody knows what their contribution is to that record. Okay? And also, learn what publishing is. Learn what it does, what the percentage is between the writer and the publishers, okay? Because that's going to be very important in moving forward.
I feel like I have to jump in here after we talked about the alcohol. So working on these alcohol brands, I mean, I see what happens to the music once it gets to us. I mean, I have to defer to the Puff formula because he had his deal with Ciroc, and then he has his artists in house. Now we're creating a spot. We're gonna put that artist's music on the spot. Now they have to pay for that. So there is power in owning and getting all of your stuff registered, to their point, because when it's time to cut the check, hey, you're not just gonna get my face. You're gonna have to pay for every piece. So. And I see this all the time now working on Martell and Avion. So right now we work with Quavo and 21 Savage. So also my company. Okay, well, we don't have Jadena, but we've done some stuff with him. We've done some stuff. He's not signed, see, but his business person needs to come in and But it's so important to have somebody to handle your business, because otherwise these brands will take advantage of you. They will take all your stuff and just throw your song behind everything and make tons of money because of the recognition that people have from listening to your music. So it's really important. I mean, if we're doing a spot, say, with Quavo, and then we throw his music behind it, it makes it more powerful versus putting a regular stock track behind it. And that's why it's so important, because you have to have that person that says, wait a minute, you're gonna have to run us 10 more bags before you can throw this behind that. And then it gets vetted out to all of the, the writer and the artists and all of the people that need to be paid. Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
I was gonna ask, so let's say you produce and write the actual record, and then you link up with the artist that's gonna take on the record for you. What would be like the percentage that they would, if artists totally get the 10%?
Okay. All right. That's what I was saying. When you're in the studio, right? If you got a producer and he comes with the track, right? And then you do the top line, right? What do you think the percentage should be? What's a fair percentage? 50-50, right? Okay. Sometimes it don't go that way, because the producer may come in and say, well, I had a melody in that record, all right? Me and Michael know about that because we had a situation like that with a writer. And it was a big record, all right? Massive record. We're not gonna say what the record is. But anyway, and the writer got mad because he said, wait a minute, they went and did this record over again, but, my melody was in that record. And they said, no, the melody was already in the record. So it became a big, huge issue, all right? So now, depending on who you are and who the producer is going to determine what that percentage is, okay? It could be 50-50, depending, or it could be 30-70, all right?
But what if you yourself did everything, basically?
This is 100%.
But then you have an artist that's gonna take on
That.
Okay.
No, that's
hold on.
open.
Let me say this. Okay, if it's an artist, like say for instance, somebody like Rihanna wants to do your record, all right? And you say, okay, but Rihanna says, if I'm doing your record, you're gonna give me some of that publishing, all right? Straight up, right? And you're gonna say, well, why should I give you some of that publishing? Because it's like this. What you rather have? 50% of something or 100% of nothing? Think about it, okay?
I was gonna say something. I'll let you answer that first.
Oh, okay. It's stock music. So when brands create spots, TV spots or commercials or ads, they're using music as a background to it. So you can go and buy stock music. So it's just kind of like, a generalized instrumental. So we're constantly, you guys know everybody's trying to create content, a lot of videos. We're constantly looking for tracks to put behind those ads. So, and of course, it's always more impactful if you use an artist's song. So in place of using a song, you could just use stock music, which I think is an avenue to make money as well. If you're making beats, upload it to these stock music sites, So, because people are constantly looking for background music, I mean, you have to really expand on what you're putting out there.
So I think a point that most everyone on the panel has kind of mentioned, and I think something to kind of elaborate on, is you got to have a team of people that know what they're doing. You got to have professionals, whether it's an attorney, a business manager, personal manager, and these people have been doing this and have this specialized knowledge. So I know something that Nick wanted me to talk about was what makes an entertainment attorney or someone that really specializes in a field of entertainment, sports, fashion, any of these creative worlds, versus just a general attorney. I know someone like me, my daily basis is reading through recording contracts and publishing contracts and administration and licensing and, handling, registering tracks and, clearing samples and all of these things that a regular contract lawyer or a guy that does wills or criminal guy, that's not what he does. Another big thing is, we're in it. We follow the music trends. We know, what's going on in the business, where it's going to go, how things actually occur. Yeah, it's great we're talking about, reserves and royalties, but no one sells CDs, so who gives a shit? It's like you got to spend your time on what actually is where the money is and, having the people around you that know what they're doing.
And to kind of answer her question, like a real life example. So everybody has heard of an artist named A. Marie before, right? So, it's a little story, back in the day story. When I was a young little tadpole in the music business. So A. Marie was brought to Columbia by a producer named Rich Harrison. So, and I know this because I was there. Rich Harrison basically, her first album, All That I Am, I think it is, basically wrote and produced every song except for one that Corey Rooney co-produced. That was an outro, whatever. He basically did every song on that album, every song. So it boils down to leverage because A. Marie was signed to Rich in a production deal. So I don't know the numbers, but he didn't have to give her anything because she was signed to him and he wrote and produced every record. Now, fast forward, Rich takes a record called Crazy in Love and gives it to Beyonce. Now, that song was supposed to be an A. Marie record, but they had a falling out. Now, I'm pretty sure, I don't know the business behind that, but I'm pretty sure Beyonce wasn't as big as she is now at that point, but I'm pretty sure even if he did 100% of the track and he brought it to Beyonce, there's no way that Beyonce is recording a record and not getting some publishing. So basically, to answer your question, like, it's really just about leverage. If you're working with an artist that's not a known artist, they can't really tell you that. But like he said, if you're working with someone that's like a Rihanna or that's like a SZA or somebody that says, well, listen, I have a business here set up already. So you have to decide if you want a piece of this business or if you want a piece of nothing.
In my example, it was just balance something out. It was that team. The record that they wanted some of my publishing was that team, all right? And the key to it, though, was that it wasn't the artist. It's the management that basically said, if you want this song on this artist, you're going to give us some of the publishing, because they were working in behalf of their client. So that is key, that you have the proper team and the team has a little bit of muscle. In my decision, I made everybody take the hit because they wanted it just to be my writers, and I just broke it down that the producers, everybody was going to take the hit, or I was going to give up the record.
So the next important question is radio and Spotify. Like, how important is that to reaching your fan base? How important is that as to growing your celebrity? How important is that in terms of making money? So I figured maybe something we could start with Glitch and we can go on.
Well, like Nick said earlier, I work directly in the promotions department, which is basically radio. We just specialize on building relationships with DJs across the nation, also radio stations across the nation as well. We, at 300, we're a small company. We have about maybe like 48 employees. So everybody pretty much dabbles into different departments to some extent. In regards to like the DSP worlds, and that's like Spotify, Tidal, Apple, and all of that, it's crucial. But I do think that for an upcoming artist, it is a bit tricky when it comes to like, just getting your music on those platforms. And also the traffic you may receive might be minimal as well, because the way that those DSPs work is all about like placements on playlists and stuff like that. And that comes with just building relationships with certain curators, and also just making sure that your song gets enough buzz where it reaches the attention of these certain curators. With me on the radio world, radio to some people might seem ancient, but I'm guarantee you radio is still alive and it's still very powerful in regards to breaking new artists. One of the artists that we have on, I'll get to it right now. One of the artists that we have on the label that we just recently signed in December, her name is Megan Thee Stallion. We actually.
Some of the questions we do want to hold to the end so that we can make the use of our panelists' time.
Yeah, so nah, it's all good. So just a quick history on how we came across Megan. Megan is from Houston, and when 300 got into the equation, she was already getting plays in Houston. It's called The Box. It's one of the local radio stations, and that was really one of the deciding factors in regards to signing her. And her team, she has a great team around her. They already had relationships established with the local DJs, and her music was already ringing off in the clubs. We signed her in December, and it's we're in September now, and you guys see to the level that Megan has gotten, and radio has been a huge part of that. This week alone, Cash It featuring the Baby just went #1 on the urban side. Yeah, so that's a great accomplishment for us, because that helps expand her, her track record of people. It introduces her to a new crowd as well too. One of the main things that we focus on in the radio department is still a company like Shazam's. That allows us to see where the music is really ringing off, and that determines a lot of stuff just from like tour routing or where local radio stations. We're gonna take that information and just go back and tell them, listen, this song is ringing off in your city in Shazam. Why aren't you playing it in that aspect? But yeah, that's kind of like a quick history on what I do.
I just want to add to that because I'm a DJ, and so primarily I'm checking like Spotify. I'm listening to the radio. I'm on the blogs and stuff like that. But with Spotify, like he said, the playlist is the most important really route of how you're gonna get your numbers up and get heard. But honestly, as long as it's on there and it's accessible to somebody from anywhere, that's definitely a leg up on the competition, because a lot of people will only stick to like a SoundCloud or like Audio Mac or the freer outlets for your music. But you got to be able to put it in a larger marketplace, and you also got to be on stuff like Shazam. Like, try to get people to really identify your music, so that when these bigger companies are looking for who's hot in your city or your area, you'll at least be in the conversation. You might not be the most popular person, but if they talk about you, if they mention you, that could give you that look, that'll get you on a bigger show, that'll get you maybe on a tour or something like that,
And another thing that you have to keep in mind is, even though a lot of times you may not get paid for the streams, the music supervisors that put music in TV, film, and things of that nature, they check the playlist. So a lot of times, like, even if you may have a song that's a single, but they may like you as an artist and go into your catalog and hear something else that they like, and then it could be a song they say, hey, well, we're gonna pay you $25,000 to have this song in a movie, or $100,000, for the ending of Avengers or something like that. So it's playlisting and Spotify and being in those outlets are very important for that as well.
At my company, we make our money primarily through publishing. So I use the Spotifys and the Apple Music almost as a source of promotion and creating awareness, all right? When my records get to the radio, I put on a dance, because radio is still profitable, very profitable as a publisher. But you have to use Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, just as a source. You know what I'm saying? As artists that are coming out to be independent, that's the easiest and the cheapest route for you. But you will make a lot more money on radio than you will make at Spotify or any of those DSPs.
And I like to add to it, just I think that to a certain place, radio is still king. And if you can build up those relationships, like I've been blessed to have a couple of songs on Hot 97, and it's from no other just having the relationships. One manager wanted to sign me and was like, well, what can you do? It was like, I got some connections, we could put you in an artist and we can get sure this song gets played. And even though it was like a gospel hip hop record, I knew that for like, it was like for at least a solid year. Like on Sunday, it was being played. You know, when I had a record on Hot 97 in college, and even after college, just that we knew certain DJs that were going to spin, and we had that hookup. And it's powerful because then once it's being played, and there's also that small piece of it's being played, and they know that you didn't pay to get the record played, like it's off the strength and love, and it's getting spins, and then once you're on, you got people calling in for it. There's some power that you can leverage with that. So I know that everybody's hustling behind Spotify, everything, hustling behind Pandora and stuff like that, who aren't also the best pairs of records, especially when you're a new artist, especially if you're in a smaller market in those smaller cities where you can rap with your local DJs and stuff like that who are on the radio. Like, you need to build those relationships.
Let me just add that talking to the DJs and the curators for music playlists and stuff now is super important, especially in smaller markets and stuff where you can actually touch them, because if you could have a conversation with somebody and they could put a face to the name, like, oh, you're the one with this song, that's really cool, and that'll make somebody think of you when they're playing a set. Like I just had a kid yesterday. He came up to me before we started the party and told me like he raps and they got a wave in this area. And you know, of course, everybody says that when you go to their town. Everybody's gonna tell you that. But I had the chance to look at his Instagram before I went on for my set, and he did have a wave. Like he was moving out there. I played his song in the party and it went crazy. You know, like everybody was recording it. Everything. It was a vibe. And so that wouldn't have happened if he didn't introduce himself to me, if he didn't try to build a relationship. And now we DMing each other, we building a rapport. So stuff like that goes a long way. Like, get your face out there. Don't just send the link. Like, go talk to them. I'm sorry, buy them a drink if you want, or I mean, talk about life, whatever. But really try to make genuine connections.
Also, just one quick point on just meeting new people in regards to like DJs and curators and stuff like that. It's important to remember that these people are just, you know, regular human beings, and there's a thin line between being persistent and just being annoying, to be straight up. You know, you don't want to be put into that bubble where every time they see you, they run away from you, because you're not going to build a relationship with them. So, you know, just every situation is different, because everybody you attempt to speak to is different. So just try to keep that in mind when you're meeting new people. It's a thin line.
And even to add to that, like I remember me and my friends, like, we met DJ Clark Kent, and it's just we peeped the situation. He wasn't interested in any dude that walked up and talked to him. So we had my friend, like, you know, she's 5'8", and she's Dominican, and she was like, hey, we got some records, whatever, and we had her go speak to him. You got to play the room. You know, I think sometimes people have ego because they're like, oh, I'm the artist, or I'm this and I'm dope, and everybody likes me in my city. You just may not be the right person to speak to someone. That's why you got a team, so you got a diverse amount of people that can do it. Maybe you need someone who's on your team that speaks Espanol. You got someone that speaks Chinese. Maybe like those little things matter. Those little cultural differences matter. Reading the room matters.
Now I want to ask y'all a question. What's the key word that everybody said here? Relationships. Okay? If you want to monetize your music or whatever in this business, you got to build good relationships, because today's intern could be tomorrow's vice president. Remember that, because me and Michael, we done seen guys come from interns to running labels. Okay? Guys that was like couldn't even get in the club, to now they're chairmen of major corporations. So like me and Mike, we've been in this music business as long as most of y'all been alive. Okay? And we have relationships. He just talked about Clark Kent. We know Clark very well. Am I right or wrong, Mike? And it's about your relationships in this business and building good relationships, because that person sees you today and they seen you out there struggling, handing out your CDs or doing whatever, right? 5 years from now, they're like, yo, I remember this guy. He was a good guy. Let's work together. So remember, the most important thing, what everybody said up here, was relationships. Build good relationships.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Shelly Thomas. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to be transparent about my journey, and hopefully someone can relate or share some of your wisdom on it. So I kind of took a longer route with my own composing because I went into a lot of different genres of world music, studying traditional music and performing that for about 10 years before I came back to composing. And I almost got a record deal last fall with the audiophile label, and then we were getting ready to sign, and I did all my research on the publishing and the royalties and like song exchange, Ask FDMI, and compiled like a list of questions for them on what percentage is the producer getting, what percentage is like a lot of questions, and then they turned it down. They were like, oh, never mind. So I just wanted your perspective on like as a woman in the industry, I'm trying to negotiate for myself moving forward, and I don't know if that's what they didn't like, but like you're talking about having good relationships, I think I know how to relate to people and I love people, but in terms of handling the business as well, like do you have any advice for being able to negotiate in a way that's not destructive?
Yeah. Have proper representation or walk soft.
If you can't afford that, like the whole like get a team thing,
That
if you're a full-time artist from the bottom, you're doing everything, it's like still living month to month, you know?
I see, we're like grown babies. Most creative people are grown babies. All right. I had an artist ask something of me at the wrong time. Would you like to know what the question was? Can you send me the song? It was the wrong time for me. I said I don't want that artist back in my studio. Just because my mood at that time was, you should get your ass here and hear the song. Indo presented an artist to me that was trying to get on The Voice. And he told me, she said, can I come to New York? I said, I never want to meet this girl. We're grown babies. You see what I'm saying? It depends on the day, the time of the month. You know what I'm saying? Where the sun is shining. I'm telling you, because you can say or do the wrong thing. You know, if I really want to sign you, then I'll go through it with you. All right? If I don't really want to sign you, I'm not going to even take the time of negotiating. You know what I'm saying? So you have to really know your situation. You see what I'm saying? When I was getting that song on an artist that was in Matthew Knowles' camp at the time, I don't want to say what the artist was, and they told me that the artist wanted some of the publishing, I thought about my situation. My company was popping. We were writing songs on a lot of A-list artists, and I said, no. You see what I'm saying? And then the producer said, do it, and I made everybody work with it. So, but that was my situation. If your situation is that you've been working years and you're trying to get on, understand that's what it is. Because everything, depending on if they had the producers, everything is dependent on when you're in the studio. I give you an example. Once again, I'm going to use my girl, Dre. She writes music. On top of, she writes lyric and melody. She can't ask me what's the percentage of my producers because she's also a producer. So it varies on the record. So sometimes if you're going at me too long about certain things that I can't answer at that moment, I'll just say, this is a waste of time. You have to have something that I think is brilliant that's going to be worth it to me. So it's also knowing your worth in your music to determine how hard you should negotiate if you can't afford proper representation. If it's a strong manager that's calling me because I want to keep, in Cedric's terms, keep that relationship, I'm going to be open to listen and figure it out. But if it's you as the artist who maybe I didn't even listen to your record, it doesn't even make sense to negotiate with me.
And to add something to that, I think that big thing that producers and especially, I want to kind of like producers and songwriters, we're willing to spend thousands on equipment, but you need to put a small piece in your bank account for representation. I think that, and I think I understand where you come from because I went to school for a music scholarship. So when I was just on the music side, just my music composition major, I promise you, they did not talk about copyrights once. I did not talk about copyrights every day until I switched my major to music business. So you got a lot of creatives that are teaching you, and they'll teach you how to play everything. And I think it's sad that they'll teach you how to play Tchaikovsky, but not how to protect your music. So I think there's a piece of that. But I think if you are serious, you need to figure out or do a deal like with a lawyer for like maybe with this piece off the back end. Because if you're going there for an actual deal and money's going to be pieced out, there are people that are willing to like work out whatever that piece would be on the back end. But like I always say as a producer, if you're willing to spend $1,000 for the new Waves bundle or the new keyboard that's go out, then you have to be willing. I'm willing to part with that money for legal representation. But I think also Justin could add on to just in terms of how a lawyer might do that situation.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of on the example you mentioned, it really kind of builds off what he said, like, how badly do they want you? If you're coming at me with 20 questions and you want to renegotiate the whole thing, is it really going to be worth me going back and forth on all these points? And, you know, if they have to pay their lawyers to do this, like, it starts becoming a balance sheet kind of thing, you know, and then realistically, there are certain people who specialize in this, they'll know what we can fight for. There's one or two things that's okay, like, we're going to ask for these, but we're not going to get these, but we need these. And you'll know the things that you have to prioritize, and those would be the things that you say, okay, well, you guys maybe are going to take 60%, but I want an extra $1,000. You know, so in their head, it's like, okay, we're going to get the percentage we want, we're going to pay a little bit more, you know, but you have to come knowing what to pick and what not to fight about. You know, but then you also have to understand, like, maybe you have 5 things. No, maybe you're not going to get all 5, but prioritize. Okay, like, I can say I want 5, but I'm only going to get 2 or 3. So you just kind of almost put that into, like, you're attacking with your strategy of, okay, like, this is what's really important to me. You know, unless it's like, I'm Rihanna and I'm fresh out of my deal and I have, you know, 20 million followers or, you know, that kind of situation, most of the time, the other people are going to be in a bigger situation. So you just have to pinpoint what you think is the most valuable and what it's worth to you. And then, you know what? If they don't want to work with you, then you got to find someone else. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of different people. There's lots of different ways to, you know, be in it. So you're talking about getting your music in, you know, music databases. And, you know, I've been working in video games. So there's a lot of stuff with the whole streaming and what's going on in that whole world. So there's a lot of different areas to create and be part of it. So you just gotta have to find what fits for you.
It's a couple of ways I want to answer this question. The first thing is that it really sometimes depends who it comes from, because I own a publishing company. If you're asking me a bunch of questions about that, it's not bad that you're knowledgeable about it, but I don't necessarily want to hear it from you. I might want to just keep our relationship on a creative thing. And I'll say, well, look, if you want to talk about the terms of the deal, let your lawyer speak to my lawyer and let them hash that out. Let's keep our relationship on a kind of creative vibe. So sometimes it's about that. The other thing is, what I found in this business is that if someone really wants to do business with you and they're not trying to fuck you over, they're not going to do that. So because you ask too many questions, that usually means that the deal or whatever they were trying to do with you was probably not going to be favorable. So instead of them kind of going back and forth, they just deaded the situation. The third thing I'm going to say is that, this is, I guess, the major word from this conversation, if y'all don't take anything else, is leverage. Because it's the same thing. Like, my producer that I'm working with had records with top tier artists. And when I started working with him early this year, I took him, you know, we were out in LA for Grammys and I'm introducing them to people. And nobody, you know, these are people that I've known for years, heads of publishing companies, and nobody cared. But as soon as I sent the text out and said, yeah, we got this Her single, everybody starts texting back, yeah, come through, let's meet, send me some tracks. I got a writer in town, I got an artist. It's all about leverage. Sometimes leverage and timing is the most, it surpasses what your talent and everything else is. If you just have the right timing and the proper leverage, like, that can work wonders for you more than anything else.
Okay, one thing. You know why artists are, you know, creative people should never negotiate their own contracts? It's because you cannot be the good guy and the bad guy at the same time. Okay, you need representation to be the bad guy, right? You need to smile. You need to keep your relationship with whoever you're negotiating with, happy, go lucky. Hey, we cool. But then you go to your representative and say, yo, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Okay, and then he's the bad guy. So yeah, he goes and says, no, she's not going to do that. And then they'll come to you and say, but I got to listen to my lawyer. He's the one, I'm paying for that. That's why creative people should never negotiate, because you cannot be the bad guy and the good guy.
But what's really, really important, regardless of what anybody wants, who's your lawyer? Because when I'm in a meeting, the only thing I really want to hear after that meeting is, who's my lawyer? Because that means I got a deal. You see what I'm saying? So when an artist is negotiating a contract, unless that artist really knows who they're negotiating with in terms, it's usually a really bad idea. 99% of the times, it does not work, because people are negotiating and arguing for things that they've seen on TV. It's fiction. That's the stuff that majority of the people do. Oh, this person got their own masters. Yeah, that person. As hot as I may consider myself to be, I don't own all my masters. That's the first thing I was complaining about.
And another thing is, like, when you're a musician creative, your emotions are in it. You kind of can't think like, oh, this is my babe, this is my song. I don't want to give up half of it. But you know what? If somebody that matters wants it, like they said before, half of a lot is much better than 100 of nothing. And I think that's one of the creative things why it's hard to negotiate, because you're just so invested in it. You've been working on this for months or years or, whatever it is, that you just can't process that. It just kind of comes down to, it's $1,000 versus $2,000. Like, it's just, you need someone that's like kind of not in the negotiation. But okay, well, we have to look at it from a different perspective. And sometimes the artist, you're way too invested in the music and the product and the creative aspect of it that you just can't even focus on the other stuff.
I definitely want to echo, keep your creative and business separate. And also, I understand, being a woman in a very male-dominated industry is not the easiest. So it is important, as an artist, I think something you should make sure you do is make sure you're packaged up. Just because people don't have a lot of time, get your one sheet together or get your site together where you could just shoot them that link. I average this many listens. This is my social media impact. You lay it all out and be very straight to the point, because people don't have a lot of time. I mean, people approach me all the time, sponsor my event, sponsor this, and they've only put on one event, and it's just like, okay, you kind of got to know where you're at in the game too. You might have to hustle a little bit more until you get to that point where you can really make those types of demands. But being a woman, I have to tell you, like, keep going anyway, and and don't let them strong arm you. But yeah, that's why representation is important and keeping your creative and business separate. I mean, working at Bad Boy, it was the best way to see a layout like that. I mean, we handled the business and the creatives were on a different arm, but collectively, we all made sure that everything was packaged up. That was our job. Make sure everything is packaged up for, the client or whomever is tapping in. But I would just want to give that advice. Like, make sure you're packaged up. Get your one sheets together. Get your 5 minutes. Sometimes people only have 5 minutes, so make sure you have everything that you would add to the table packaged up.
So I want to go to one or two quick questions so that for the panel, so that we can make the most of the time. And then afterwards, there will be time some of the panelists will still be here, so also you can ask your questions personally, which is a part of this salon format. One of the questions I do want to ask, how important is it to build your online persona and your brand online? And how important is it also, like, to own that brand that you're pushing? So start with Shannon.
It's really important creating your brand online. That's been my job, to help brands tell their stories. So marketing a person, I mean, you have to be sure about what your story is. What do you want people to know? I mean, we're constantly looking for influencers, constantly looking for artists, to put them in the clubs and, to do things. But sometimes I do only have 5 minutes. Somebody sends me your handle, I'm gonna run down your page, 1, 2, 3. This is who you are. So make sure whatever you're putting out there is a clear projection of that. I've actually been sent an artist who actually did country music, and they were like, we were trying to staff people for a really ritzy club, and we're like, that might not be his vibe. But why are we thinking that? Because of the image that he was projecting. So you have to be very careful with how you're putting yourself out there, because again, sometimes people only have a few minutes to really take in who you are. And right these days we're doing that with your Instagram. But I would also empower you to, when Instagram shuts down, then what? When Twitter shuts down, then what? You have to make sure you have your own site up as well. What are you pushing to from these sites? Because once you click, okay, they own everything you're putting up there. So create your own space where you're pushing people to from these sites, so that, build your own online site traffic and keep track of that, so you can add that to your one pager of, all the great things that help build your impact. But yeah, you're building yourself online, you have to definitely be consistent, and it's all about the analytics, it's all about the numbers, and sometimes that's all people care about. So as an artist, you're pouring yourself into everything you're doing, and then it gets to the table, and it's like, well, how many listens does he get? What are his engagements? Like, that's what it's all about, because people want to sell products on top of your art, and you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I think online, like your branding and your website is super important for it, almost more so than your music, for this exact reason right here, because like we was in a meeting with Jamez like last week, a week and a half ago, right? And we was talking about Shazam, ironically, because we was trying to figure out like how are companies and brands picking the people that they work with, kind of thing. And it's really based on trends and stuff that they see online. So it relates to like the Shazams, it relates to your YouTube, but it also relates to your Instagram and your website, because they want to see how well your artist is going to, or you as the artist is going to fit in with what they're doing and with what they have going on. Sometimes it's not really about you or your art, it's trying to create that whole picture for a company or for an event or for a networking panel kind of thing. And your online presentation, your persona, let's say, because some people, they put on a facade, like that's not really who they are. Might not be that outgoing or that loud in person kind of thing. But if it fits well with what we're doing, like me specifically, if it fits well with what I got going on, I'm gonna use that person. But if I can't find you online, if I can't listen to your music, if I don't know what you look like, I'm definitely gonna pass on you. Like, I'm not gonna book you for an event or, whatever it is. So definitely I would say use Instagram kind of like a magazine. And if you have a website, use your website as like your headquarters. So that way that e-commerce is going through you. You get a bigger percentage if they buy something. If they download your music kind of thing, you get a bigger percentage kind of thing. And you could get people to join like a mailing list or whatever easier through a website than it is like any other platform.
Well, I'm not gonna go on file and start talking about Megan's business deals and stuff like that. But Megan is an intriguing artist when you think about all the different shades that she has. Before Megan's music really took off, in a sense, people bought into her as a person, and that's why she's able to, I want to say, enjoy the early success that she's been able to have. She, from the jump, started her own fan base, which she calls her hotties. That was all organic. That was all her. That wasn't anything label related. That's just who she is. If you ever meet Megan in person, she's as humble as they come, and people are drawn to her because of that. Right now, she's on a national tour, which is her first tour actually, with Meek and Future, and it's going great for her. And like I said, we signed Megan back in December. So everything that she's been able to accomplish has been mainly Megan. On the label side, we just support her and whatever she wants to do. Her music really drives everything, but it's just her as well too. It's her personality. So any artist in the building, I would definitely say, just be mindful of things like that. Really try to interact with your fan base as much as possible. Actually make them feel like they're a part of something. And whenever they come and see you at a show or listen to your music, just make sure that it's an experience that they're gonna remember and take it back with them, because that can transition into them either buying merch or, you know, just continue streaming your music and stuff like that. So that's what I would say. You know, no problem.
I was just gonna say about the social media thing is you have to kind of make sure that things make sense, like they're relevant, because you can't say that you're a rapper and then you got pictures of like a chihuahua on there. You know, like no one really wants to see that. Like things have to kind of like, you know, make sense as far as that's concerned. Like, so a lot of times, like I go and someone says they're an artist and you see everything else but the music. You don't see the music link. You don't see a video. You don't see them in the studio. So it's like, how would I ever know that you're a musician if all I see is like, you know, nothing that has to do with your career? So, and it goes back to what they said earlier, that no one, like time is the most important commodity. So if I go on someone's page and I don't see what I want to see in the first 10 seconds that I want to see it, I might not even take the time to go to see more or press the link in bio, because I already don't like what I see in the first six panes of your Instagram. So you have to make sure that you try to, it's just like with music. Like if I don't like a beat within the first, 30 seconds, I just go to the next one. So you have to make sure that you do things and have things on your profiles that are gonna captivate people and make people say, okay, well, it's something interesting that would make them wanna, you know, keep going and maybe do business with you. Oh, you got one.
I just wanted to add another thing. I see so many artists get passed on, I mean, at the table because of, how do I say this? Keep your nose clean. I know how that sounds, but, you know, they're doing that background check on you. You know, you want to get a liquor sponsor, but you have a DWI, you know, that's not going to work, you know. It's not going to work. But along with your social perception of who you are, it has a lot to do with who you really are as well. So, you know, they are looking into those types of things. You know, you can't be on a woman empowerment campaign if you hit one, you know. Let's be real. I mean, we're going there, right? I mean, whatever. But it's real. This is real stuff, because these are the things that come up at these tables when they pass on people. You know, he's a flight risk. Like, no. And we're living in cancel culture right now. So be careful what you're putting out there, because once it's out there, you don't know who screenshotted it, who videotaped it. It's out there. And that's something definitely you want to be mindful of with social media. Make sure, don't wait until you're on to start making good decisions. Make them now, and be careful of what you're putting out there, because it will come back to bite you. I mean, you see all these guys getting tweets pulled from like 2012, and then all of a sudden everything's canceled. So I just wanted to make light of that. And I'm gonna go backwards a little bit on the power of radio. We actually just did a partnership with Hot 97, and they have Who's Next showcase. So I just wanted to agree, like the power of radio is still very, very big, you know, and understanding the cycle. I mean, the DJs are playing on the radio, the DJs are in the clubs, they're spinning the records. People are in those clubs, they're buying bottles at ridiculous amounts. And it's a cycle, so understand the cycle of where all this money is, how it's circling. Because I feel like there's some on the table for everybody.
And to add a piece to your social media, I think it's when you have a really clear brand message online and what kind of people tune in and comment with you. Sometimes it's not just your numbers, it's the comments, because if there's comments, they know you're not buying followers. But if people really interact with you and you're getting a strong number, then they go, oh, even if you've got 1,000 followers, 5,000 followers, but you got 50% of your people talking back with you or resonating with what you're doing. One of the big things is like, I don't have crazy numbers, but because a lot of times I'm a very big techie, whether I'm in the classroom, whether I'm in the studio. So I get invitations as an influencer to CES week, to Geek Week, to all those different like tech type festivals, because they want to see me use that with my students in class. They want to see me when I do a panel like this, talk about their product or have it on me and stuff like that. I just posted something from my my honeymoon, just just playing something from my rollie, just because like in music and room, because like my wife went to go get you went to go to the sauna or whatever, and I was just doing it, and Rolly hit me up and was like, oh, that was dope. We like that. You were in Mexico, whatever. And I was like, I also do this with my classroom. And they're like, oh, well, can you send some footage of you doing that with your kids in the classroom? We want to speak more on that. So it's also leveraging what you have. It's not just pure numbers. It's leveraging something they want. And even like getting my first stuff on the news is like I put a lot of my kids on display. So News 12 and stuff like that was like, oh, we want to do something. We want to come in your classroom. And because of building those networks, when I released a song for charity, I was able to go, I was able to get on News 12. I was able to get on Eyewitness News 7. I was able to get on DJ Nell's website, because it's like those types of relationships. So you just got to be really clear and concise on what people see online from you, because especially if you're squeaky clean, you got a really good interaction with your followers, they might be able to work with you. It may not be big, but like, hey, I may not have got $5,000, but I got a lot of free product, and invites the places to try this product out because they're intrigued in what I do.
Last thing, this is my topic. I'm passionate about it, but engagement. That's so important, and I wanted to talk about that. He was talking about Meg Thee Stallion and how organic everything comes across, because it's organically who she is. Get your 10 friends together to comment on your stuff. Don't be afraid to ask them to do it. I mean, I get DMs from people all the time. Just comment, like it, just look at it. Even if they just glance at it and don't like it, you got a video view, you got an impression. I mean, don't be too proud to do it. I mean, Puff did it. I know, because I did it for him. Hop in those DMs and say, yo, bro, post this. Don't be afraid to do it, because it's so not everybody understands the culture, not everybody understands your art, and sometimes it is as dry as your numbers. So you kind of have to have both, and that's a lot of pressure, but get your army together, because nothing is done without having that group of supporters that are behind you, because at the end of the day, people want to see that people are leaning into you, because that proves that you are profitable, and people do want to follow you, and people do want to, buy into your image. Just want to add.
So the last question, because I know some of our panelists do have to leave. They have to, they have to go back to their work lives, even though it's a Sunday. Yeah. What do you think, like from your personal history, what do you think is some of the biggest things that hold artists back from getting to the grill? I guess we can start with you, because you do radio and stuff like that. But what is the biggest thing that holds an artist back, or the biggest detriment to their career?
Honestly, it's a complicated topic, but I think it has a simple answer. I think it just really comes down to the artist, who they are as a person. There's a lot of different ways to make it within the music industry. These guys could have more experience than me in the music industry, but they can probably tell you better than I can. I don't think there's an actual blueprint that each artist gets handed so that they can follow in order to get to success. Everybody has different avenues. Just real quick on me, like the way I became an intern, I wasn't looking for it. It kind of fell on my lap in a sense. I used to be an artist, and I actually had a competition that I actually had the blessings of winning, and that landed me my internship at Interscope. I didn't go into that room, into that competition, expecting to get what I received, but it was just about just being in the right place at the right time. And I presented myself properly. I had the right energy, and that's what allowed me to be here. Without that, honestly, I don't know what I would be doing. But like I said, there's a lot of sacrifice. I will vouch 100% if any artists in the building have an opportunity to be an intern at a label. Don't expect to get paid, but you will get paid in experience and in knowledge. I'm still learning. And that's really one of the main reasons why I wanted to be here at this panel, so that I can listen to these guys, especially on the publishing side, because that's not something that I deal with directly at work, and I don't have full knowledge on it. But I mean, I was here, I had my phone on recording what these guys were saying, and I'm gonna go back and listen to it. It's all about learning, it's all about reinventing yourself, and it's all about asking questions too. So any artist in the building, you really gotta get it out the mud. Nobody's gonna hand it to you. It just doesn't work like that.
So one of the biggest things I would say is just be smart with how you spend your money on your career. I've seen people spend $20,000 on radio promo to get one spin at 3 a.m. in Chicago. You know, I've seen people spend $10,000 on PR that's going to get you this interview and this interview, this interview. And it's like, I tried, but I didn't get, you know, it's like, that's one of the biggest things that I would say to every artist, just be aware of how you spend, you know, the money. You know, in this world, you have to spend money to make money, and you have to understand that there's certain things that they're just costs, and just being careful with how you do it and who you're giving it to is, you know, of chief importance, and, you know, something just to be really aware of, and to do your research, and to make sure that someone who's going to say they're going to do something and actually do what they say, and that there's other people that will vouch that they can do what they say, and they can actually do what they say for you. It's all great that I can do this for this person, this person, this person, but that doesn't mean I could do it for you. You know, every artist has different numbers, different situation. You know, you're all different. So you just want to make sure the way you spend your money, especially in these ancillary people, promoters and PR people, and, you know, these radio promo guys and Spotify playlisters and people that get you all these likes and tweets, you know, just be smart about it.
Okay, one of the worst things that you could do with me, if you're an artist, is one, be lazy. Don't grind. Because if I grind harder than you, then I don't need to be bothered with you. Second thing is be on time. Be 5 minutes before time. If somebody say, oh, I got a session and it's at 7 o'clock, and you come at 7:10, and Mike knows this, I will not do the session. Okay, because that means that you disrespected my time. Okay, be early. Always be early. Third thing, when I was vice president of a label, A&M, I had a group that I signed, all right? Gave them a lot of money. And when they got that money, they felt that they didn't have to work hard anymore. You know what I did? I dropped them. I dropped them. The label was like, what do you want to do? I said, they didn't listen to me. So I dropped them. And remember something, when you get with a label, that's when the real work begins. Because the minute that you don't do something that they feel that, okay, we asked you to do this, we already invested all this money into you, and you say, no, okay, we're going to show you. And then they lose interest and move on to the next person. Remember something, artists are a dime a dozen, okay? Superstars only come once in a blue moon. And those superstars, they worked hard to get there, okay? Like, for instance, when Travis Scott came to New York, he slept on people's couches, okay? He ate Roman noodles. See, right now, y'all only see Travis Scott, the big, you know, rapper, is the superstar, the rock star, but he starved. So did Kanye West. So that every artist that is huge right now, they starved. They, you know, I got a friend that we started off together. He's a major producer now. I remember when he couldn't even put enough money to get a pizza. So remember, it's about don't be lazy, grind.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I see with a lot of artists is that they're not really educated on what's going on in the game, and they might not necessarily have good advisors or good mentors around them. So I would say, like, definitely educate yourself on, like, the type of deals that's going on, the type of platforms that's really hot, the places that's really hot, you know? Because if you could be going out, you could be doing stuff, but if ain't nobody there to really see it, or you're not vibing and connecting with people, it don't count. If you posting your music on a site that nobody goes to, it don't count. Somebody hopped on your song, or you did an interview with somebody that nobody listens to, it don't count. What was the point? You get what I'm saying? So really, like, educate yourself on what's hot, and if you might not be that person that's like super mainstream or whatever, but go to the places that your music or your genre is really popping in, and really study everything that you can about that platform to learn, like, who's the gatekeepers, who's the people that's breaking new music in that arena, you know? Who's the people that's really, like, helping to influence what's going on, and try to learn everything that you can from them and just try to apply it to what you got going on. Like, there's so many different ways to get on nowadays. There's so many different platforms. You just got to know which one works best for you and make it work.
I would say one of the most important things is being consistent. One of my mentors, Zach Katz, who's like a really, really big influential person in this business, told me that cream rises to the top. So at the end of the day, if you're hot and if you're, sometimes even if you're not hot, but if you're consistent and people see that you're putting the work in, like sometimes you'll just get, blessings out of nowhere, just unexpectedly. And the other thing is, I guess, going back to what everyone said about relationships, like you can't shit on people because you just never know. It could be someone in this room right now that you're sitting next to that becomes a star, becomes an A&R, becomes someone of importance. So you should just treat everyone with the same respect and, try your best to, fuck with who fucks with you. Everyone is not going to be your friend. Everyone is not going to be someone that you're going to do business with, but you just know naturally who you have chemistry with, and sometimes it's just you against the world with that person or your team. And I have a team that's here tonight that came with me like on a Sunday night. These are people that I deal with, that I speak to consistently, and they're fucking with me on a Sunday night. That means a lot to me because they could be anywhere else right now, but obviously they believe in me or they see something in me that says, you know what, we're gonna go support you at this panel tonight. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I say.
I definitely want to echo being consistent, and I want to echo relationships as well. I was an unpaid intern too at MTV, holding up cue cards for people. So I mean, you never know where you're gonna wind up, and it all comes back around. And it's a very small industry. There's so many people I've seen, as he said, that have burned bridges, and then they need to come back around and ask you to endorse them on something. So be really careful about that. And but I would say my biggest thing is just keep yourself packaged up. As I said earlier, like package yourself up, take that time to really figure out what your narrative is and make sure you're telling it true to who you are. And yeah, one thing I've heard is if you're too good for the little job, then you're not good enough for the big job. So you have to work from the bottom up, and just make sure you stay humble throughout the whole process.
So we really want to thank our panelists for coming out. We have 2 amazing performances coming up from Jamez and Andreas. So we just need like about 2-3 minutes to flip the room. Our panelists will be around, so we definitely encourage you to network and just give us this couple minutes so we can flip the room for the next piece.